Before we begin, I have a confession to make. I have a love-hate relationship with science. The principles are fantastic. The methods are invaluable. And yet, the people working in the scientific fields are just like everybody else. They make mistakes. They form opinions and make judgments that are not always based on the facts. And so while scientists are human and make mistakes, science itself is an incredibly valuable resource. And so when we talk about the science of manifesting, I want to stick to the facts, stick to the evidence, and not go off into fantasy. There are far too many people who make claims about the science of manifesting that are not supported by the facts. They go off into what I call quantum nonsense. They use terms from quantum physics in ways that the terms were never intended, making it perfectly, abundantly clear they don't have a clue what they're talking about. So while there could be some connections between manifesting and quantum physics, there's no reason to go there. Because what we can do is just simply focus on the evidence at hand. And based on this evidence, we can see certain clear patterns. One of these patterns is something I've mentioned a number of times in this video series. Our faith, our beliefs influence the way that we interact with the world around us. And in many cases, there is plenty of evidence to show that when we believe something to be true, it becomes true, at least in our own personal experience. And so this old idea that according to your faith is it done to you, it actually holds water. When we change what we believe to be true, our experience changes to match it. As a very quick example, there are some people who believe that Monday is the worst day of the week. There's been a backlog of work building up over the weekend, so you've got more work to do. You've taken time off, so you're not quite in the groove. You've got to get a little bit of time to get back into the flow of things. And if anything's going to go wrong, it's probably going to go wrong on a Monday. That's what they believe. And guess what? At least those people tend to have more problems on a Monday than any other day of the week. Their beliefs become their reality. Some people believe that they are too old to start something new. And when they do attempt to start something new, their belief causes them to hold back, not present themselves with as much energy as they would present themselves with had they not believed this false statement. And yet it interferes with their attempts to connect with people, to do the work that they would like to do and to do it well. And so their belief becomes true. Not because of their age, but because they fail to put all of themselves into the new project. Some people believe that they are limited based off of their sex, their gender, their color, or certain preferences. And because of those beliefs, they put themselves into situations where those things will be judged. What I have found in my life, and I'll just kind of summarize this as much as I can. What I have found in my life is that when we believe things are working for us, things do work for us. When we believe that the world is against us, it appears that the world is against us. What I have found is that if we believe that people are basically good and honest, then we will find ourselves meeting people who are basically good and honest. And yet, if we believe that people are evil and mean and only out for themselves and will stab you in the back the first chance they get if you look at them cross-eyed, then we will find ourselves running into those people more often. So our beliefs tend to influence our decisions. Those decisions lead to certain actions, and our actions produce certain results. And so even on a purely physical point of view, looking at nothing beyond the physical world around us, our beliefs create our experiences based off of the things that we decide, the things that we do, and all of that leads to the results that we get. If we believe that somebody is likely to reject us, then we will often subconsciously communicate in a way that causes them to reject us. If we believe that somebody is going to enjoy being around us and approve of anything that we decide to do, and we go through that experience with full authenticity and a full expectation of a positive result, things happen. Confidence gets communicated, and people respond to confidence or lack of it, one way or the other. And so even on a purely physical point of view, faith is a major factor in the results that we get in life, both on a physical level and a non-physical level. So in analyzing the data, faith is a major factor in manifesting. We've already talked about this. You've probably heard this idea 100 times before. The power of faith, the power of belief. It works. It's a major factor. And again, as I've already mentioned in these videos, the belief that we have in ourselves, the belief that we have in manifesting in general, the belief that we have in the way that manifesting works, the belief in our own worthiness to experience good things, the beliefs that we have regarding our ability to influence the world around us, and our ability to believe that we will, in fact, get the results that we want in any particular experience. All of these beliefs work together to create the final outcome. It's not just enough to believe one thing. There's a whole conglomeration of things that we need to believe in order to get positive results from our manifesting efforts. This is one of the most important principles in manifesting. And there are different ways to build up our ability to believe that manifesting works, that we have the ability to manifest our desires, and that we will, in fact, manifest a specific outcome. There's this interesting principle with faith, with belief. And it's very closely related to other psychological principles about association. Our minds work in a way that associates one thing with another. We believe something to be true because our minds have associated that thing with the idea of truth. 2 + 2 = 4, at least in normal math. That is a true statement. We believe this to be true because we have learned it to be true. This idea of one number added to another number equal a third number, the mathematics system, we have stored that inside our memory banks, connected to this other idea of this is true, this is fact, this is reality. Some people have associated the idea that certain places on the earth have a special power. And because of their belief that these places have a power of themselves, their belief makes whatever they do in these places more effective. The same is true with a lot of other systems that you find online for manifesting. There are too many to count, but basically the idea is there are a lot of people that say, do this, do this, do this, do this. It's going to work whether you believe in it or not. And of course, we've already covered that in a different video. If you believe in the system, if you believe that it's going to work, then your belief will make it work. Faith works. Going back to this idea of association, one of the ways that you can choose to believe in something new, and let's just pick a specific example. Let's say that you have been poor your entire life. You've never made more than a certain number in a given year. Let's say $20,000 a year. Let's say you've never made more than $20,000 in your life. And yet you would like to experience a better lifestyle. You would like to be making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year instead of just $20,000. But because of your past, you have what they call this financial thermostat in your mind that says, okay, you're worth this much. You're not worth this much, you're worth this much. And somehow you've got to change what you believe about yourself, that you are worth that higher amount. How do you go about doing that? Well, one of the simple techniques that I teach is something called faith anchoring. And the idea of faith anchoring is that you first of all bring up a feeling of absolute faith, absolute confidence and belief and expectancy, something that you know is an absolute fact. So start out by thinking of something you know to be an absolute fact. Something like 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, that is an absolute fact. It's small detail. It's something that we can't really get too excited about. Okay, fine. So if you've got a floor beneath you or the ground beneath you, or there's a rock right next to you or a tree right over there, you can say these things are real. In fact, if you go up to that tree and you put your hand against it and feel the reality of it, or maybe you're sitting at your desk, you can put your hands on the desk and say, this desk is real. It is here. It is a physical fact of my reality. And just notice how you feel by affirming the truth and reality of something that is obviously real. Notice that feeling. Now, to find the aspect of that feeling that refers to faith and truth, think about something that's just pure fantasy. It's like, oh, okay, there's a unicorn flying through the air over there. It's like, okay, notice how you feel about that type of statement, that type of an idea. Think of something that's nothing more than fantasy And notice how you feel about that. Then go back to the feeling of truth. Go back to that tree or that desk or whatever it is that you know is an absolute fact. I mean, your own body, it's like, I know I am here. I am standing right here. This is planet Earth that I'm standing on. This is real. Go back and forth between those two ideas. Notice the difference in how they feel. Find that difference and then focus on the feeling of truth, the feeling of reality, the feeling of something that is solid. And now imagine that feeling 20 times more powerful, 1,000 times bigger. Make it the strongest, most intense feeling you can possibly imagine, and then double it, and double it again. And keep going until you've got the equivalent of an entire universe in a single point. That level of intensity of faith that says this is an absolute fact, nothing else could possibly be true, and I know it. When you have that level of faith, you've got a tool. You've got the equivalent of a hammer or a wrench or a paintbrush. And you can apply that tool to anything you would like to manifest. Let's say, okay, we're going back to the example. You've made $20,000 a year for most of your life. Now you want to make $50,000 a year. I am worth $50,000 a year. You can make that affirmation with the feeling of absolute truth, absolute reality, no question about it. Bring those two things together. The idea of worthiness and the idea of truth, bring those two ideas together in your mind. And you have now anchored that idea with the feeling and concept of truth. Focus on those two things together for a period of time. Could be 5 seconds, it could be 5 minutes, doesn't matter really. Just hold it together until you feel it stabilize. Once you feel it stabilize within your mind, you can let go. And your mind will continue to hold on to that idea and feeling of truth and reality with this idea of being worth more than you've ever made in your life. That's one way of using the power of faith. So that is one of the key aspects of manifesting, is the power of faith. If you truly believe that life is a particular way, your beliefs shape your reality, and that's what you see. If you currently do not yet believe in something you would like to manifest, then we need to bring in two other factors. The first most important factor to bring in is the idea of focus. You need to be able to focus your mind on the thing that you would like to manifest and completely ignore any idea that conflicts with it. Again, going back to the idea of being worth more than you've ever made in your life, focus your mind on, I can make that money. You don't have to even get to the point of I am worth that much money, because if you look at your physical reality and say, okay, yes, I'm not making that money, there's a conflict there. You want to avoid the conflict. And now we're getting into really the how to do, which is our next video. But for right now, we're kind of using that as an example to teach the principles, okay? So the idea of focus, you want to be able to focus on the thing that you want to manifest clearly, intensely, and with absolutely no distractions. Can you focus on just one thing without being deviated and distracted by something else? Look right in my eyes. Focus on me right at this moment, and know that there is a power that you have, that we all have. And this power grows, becomes stronger, and intensifies the more you focus on just one thing, and one thing only. And when you can focus on the thing that you would like to manifest to the exclusion of everything else, and bring in this idea of faith anchoring, it's like taking a 60-watt light bulb, condensing it down to one frequency into one pinpoint of light. And you take that 60-watt light bulb, which does nothing more than just light up a room, and make a 60-watt laser that can cut through steel. That's the power of focus. The more you can focus, the more powerful you become. So that's one of the things that is necessary in order to shift our faith from the old beliefs to the new beliefs. Another tool that is involved in shifting your faith, the third of a trinity of factors involved in the science of manifesting. We've covered faith, we've covered focus, and there's a third factor which gets beyond just mere ideas and starts making it real when you bring in a feeling aspect. The feeling of reality, the feeling of something solid, the feeling that you would have once the manifestation happens. That bookstore miracle story that I have told in a different video. When I was standing in that bookstore and reading the ideas in that book, and I was told to imagine the power of God flowing through me as the answer to my prayer, I felt that power. I felt money in my hands. I felt a sense of joy and relief and gratitude within me. I felt all of these things as part of that experience. And it was that feeling combined with the focus of only being able to think of one thing at a time, and the faith that was instilled upon me through the suggestions in that book, that all came together to make that miracle happen. It is these three factors that are involved in every single case where manifestation happens and the belief is not yet there. If you have enough faith, you don't need the focus or the feeling, but when your faith is lacking, when you need to shift your beliefs to encompass a larger experience of life, that is when you need the power of your focus and the power of feeling to make it happen. Now, I gave you a quick example of how you can develop faith. Focus, it's really just a matter of practice. You've got to practice focusing, and get involved in one thing and maintain that focus as long as you possibly can. Now, I understand that our modern world, and this has been true for decades, I mean, I think it started back in the 80s. It may have even started before then. But when we watch TV and other media where they're quickly moving from one thing to another and they're trying to keep your attention by quickly shifting it, that's actually damaging to our ability to focus. And so our media has been training us for decades to lose focus. In order to properly have a powerful manifesting ability, we need to take control of our own minds. We need to apply our focus awareness to one thing and hold it there as long as we possibly can, and exercise that muscle until it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger with greater and greater endurance. Meditation has been the classic form of training for focus. Focus on one thing, sit and do nothing else for as long as you can. That's one way of developing focus. There are other ways of developing focus, and we might cover those later on in this video series. But that's one idea for you. As far as developing feelings and to be able to call up specific feelings at will, that works through a process of focus. Focus is involved with that as well. And the thing that I teach most often is that if you want to develop the ability to see pictures inside your mind, and there's so many people who say, oh, I can't visualize, I can't see anything, I close my eyes and all I see is black. Well, that's because you're using your physical eyes, not your mental eyes. So there's this idea that I teach, and it's a very simple one. In fact, if we take a simple object, let's just take this watch as an example. So I pulled the watch off my wrist and I'm looking at this watch and I'm noticing the colors on the face. I'm noticing the hands, I'm noticing the color of the bezel, I'm noticing the wristband itself, and I'm looking at this and I'm trying to memorize what it looks like. And that's what I'm suggesting to you. You pick up any object, you look at it, you focus on it, and you memorize what it looks like. And when you think you have it, close your eyes and remember what you just saw. Can you notice, like if you're looking at a watch, can you notice the face of the watch, the bezel around the watch, the numbers that might be on the face of the watch, the hands? And can you see the colors, the shapes, any textures that may have been on that object? And then when you think you have recreated it inside your mind, open your eyes again and look at the object you were just studying. Notice and compare what you're seeing with your physical eyes with what you just saw with your mental eyes. And go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until when you close your eyes, you're seeing that same object with as much clarity as you did with your physical eyes. That's an exercise you can do with all of your senses. You can do it with sound, you can do it with touch, you can feel the textures on objects and imagine those same textures inside your mind. Go back and forth, recreating it. By going back and forth, you are instructing your deeper mind, your subconscious mind, that these details are important to you. And when your subconscious mind understands that these details are important to you, it will remember them. It just takes practice, and you can develop it. One of the most important things to notice and pay attention to are positive emotions. When you're in an experience and you feel happy, joyful, satisfied, notice how that feels. Memorize that feeling. Try to amplify that feeling. Imagine that feeling amplified, going 10 times, 20 times, 100 times further, more powerful than the original feeling. Because emotions are also an important aspect of manifesting. By focusing on the emotions and the feelings of what you would like to manifest, you can make it easier for your mind to believe that it's possible. And that activates the faith. So faith, focus, and feeling are the three aspects of manifesting. This is the scientific side of manifesting. It's pretty simple. You don't need anything more complex than that. In fact, most of what you read online, most of what you see in videos are people trying to get you to believe in something to activate your faith so that you can believe that you can manifest. The things that they teach, if it sounds like quantum nonsense, it probably is. But even nonsense can be effective if you believe in it. Again, it's like the placebo effect applied to manifesting. The thing itself doesn't really have to work as long as you believe it's going to work. And your belief will make it work. So hopefully I have explained enough of the science of manifesting. That's really all you need to know. In the next video, we're going to talk about the other side of manifesting, the art of manifesting. And here's where we get into the how to do it and the incredible variety that is available to you, and how you can have fun and play with manifesting. And that's in our next video. So until then, be blessed, my friend.